Welcome, everyone, to Intuitive You, How to Heal and Create a Life That You Love. I am here with my dear friend, Desiree Saffrie. She is from the Netherlands over in Europe, and we are so excited that she is here this morning. And we're actually pre-recording this because this beautiful person is so busy, and we had to get her on our calendar. So you'll be getting this whenever you're getting it, but the message of love will still be the same. And this woman is actually, man, she's been living the message of love and intuition for I don't know how long. She took the program, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago, the Intuitive Success Coaching Program. And I feel like, honestly, she's become my teacher in this process too. Like I call her, she's become one of my best friends, and she truly knows what it is to be love. She works with children around the world. She's in our Intuitive Child program, and also her day-to-day life includes working with these kiddos. So without any further ado, I want to welcome Desiree. Welcome to the show.
Hiya, it's good to be back again.
Totally. So what is it that really connected you with your heart and your intuition and really allowed you to trust it?
The way the energy feels, it's so much lighter. It's and brighter, and it comes from flow. It helps me to connect better to the world around me, and going through all the phases in my life, that's actually the most highest desire I had in my life, to connect fully and openly to the world around me. I've started very closed off with not trusting the world around me, and actually having a solemn life, like on my own. But the more I let the language of love in my heart and make it a way of life, the easier it became to connect to the world around me.
So I'm just remembering when I viewed your intake form a long time ago, you wrote something about connect to the world around me. And who would have known? Because the only person I saw was a woman that was so connected to the world around her through love, right? So I think it's so fascinating how we can perceive ourselves sometimes different than what we actually are. I had the privilege of actually visiting Desiree, I think it was a couple years ago. And I remember on my way home, Desiree was working with the kids, and her boyfriend took me on a little boat to get from like her house. I think it's like a ferry.
Sure.
And one of the things he said, and I totally agreed with him, is like, Desiree just gives so much, like you can't stop her from giving because she's always giving love, right? And so it's just so funny that, you know, who you are, maybe you're catching up to seeing who you are. And I really invite everybody listening to see yourself from your heart and see where you are connected in love. See yourself through the eyes of love. See others through the eyes of love. And you will have a totally different experience of life. And a really positive
Exactly.
at that.
Yeah. True. And it's not like you make up your mind to look through eyes of love. No, it's an intrinsic feeling that comes out, and you just can't help but act from that feeling. So that's a different way. There's different ways.
So I was talking to a really awesome friend the other day, and he talked about your body being like an octopus, right? So it's constantly picking up information. So if you think about like your thought is just a thought that passes through your brain, but your whole body is like your nervous system picking up information. So when you feel through your heart and your gut, you're literally embodying your intuitive guidance. And so you're just aware. You're just totally aware of what's happening next. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not just that you're looking through your eyes. Well, I call them your earth eyes. It's the ones right in your head. And you not only see what's happening in your physical surroundings, you also see through your energy eyes, or your soul's eyes, why the things are happening when they're happening. And then when you trust it more, that situations unfold the way they do, in a higher surface of you, that on the other side there's always a higher outcome for you, that you are evolving into the next version of yourself, your higher version of yourself, then it's easier to follow the steps that you can see, even though when you lift up your foot to take the step. It's not quite clear to see where the next stepping stone is going to be, but just to lift up your foot and be prepared to take that step. That's all that's helping you to live a life more in love and light from a higher perspective.
Yeah, so I love that. I'd love to highlight that a little bit, Des, is your soul, right? So to me, it's like your heart, you can feel in your body, your gut, you can feel in your intuition is your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Soul's perspective, can you speak a little bit more about how to see from your soul's perspective, right? Which to me is even above, almost like a witness, even above our body. But I would love for you to speak to that.
Yeah, so for me, when I'm looking through my soul perspective, is that even though and every aspect of me exists in the same time. So when there's a situation around me that is severely triggering me, in the same time, I can look through my soul's eyes and see what's happening in the situation that I am in, as if I'm existing in the earth moment of time, where the situation is unfolding, and I feel on my body the impact of emotions of that is occurring in my life. And I can also, as if I'm stepping next to myself and seeing it from my soul's eye, like, okay, this is happening, Desiree. This is teaching you something. So breathe through it. Sometimes it feels as if you're going through labor. Breathe through it. The emotions are high, the emotions are heavy, and see all the spectrum of what choices in your life can do in this moment of time, as if you're like the Matrix, freezing it for a second, that if you go this way and you react out of anger, then this is the path you'll follow. This is how the situation unfolds. If you come from compassion and you take a second to breathe through it and come from compassion and see how it indeed hurts you, but also how the other tries to speak to your heart, even though the language comes out awkwardly and you feel hurt by it, that's also a path that you can follow. Or you can choose now to just turn around, disengage, and lock yourself away in a room. That was the spectrum of the choices I had. And then it takes practice. You need to practice this, because your first instinct is to go like, darn, I get hurt, make the hurting stop, and then you either lash out or you retract yourself within you and you disconnect. But when you are faced with moments in your life when the pain is really high, it is asked of us actually to see it more through the eyes of the soul, to see it more like, okay, what is needed? Because those are the peak moments in which we can evolve the quickest, because they are so heavy in the moment. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you said it, really well. It is just speaking and seeing and feeling from the heart, so it softens it.
Yeah. And it is not that you bury the emotions of what you feel in that moment. I can be absolutely livid in the moment, furious in what's happening, but still breathe through it and speak to the part in me, because that's all it is. When I get triggered, it's not all of me that gets triggered. If I let that bit of that is triggered run the show, then yes, all of me is triggered, and then I disconnect. I can't connect to my heart. I can't connect to my more sane thoughts. Then fury is just running the show, and like a bull in the china shop, I just go rampage. That's not what's needed. But when I can keep myself, all of myself, collected in the moment of the now, then the biggest part of me, and that's mostly my soul part, can say to that triggered part, like, okay, sweetie, yes, you're triggered. Okay, breathe through it. I see you, I feel you, I hear you, I take you seriously. But I'm also just going to park you for a second, because letting you run the show is not handy. Let's see what else is going on in this moment, and let's see if we can work through it. And depending on how furious or how emotionally triggered I am, I either ask the person in front of me in that moment, like, okay, I just need a moment for myself, but I'll come back. So please give me a minute so I can sort out the emotions that are happening in me. Or I say to that part, like, okay, you're triggered. I'm going to come back and look at you in a minute. I'm first going to handle this situation, but we're going to have a talk heart on heart, me with myself, with that part that is triggered. And we're going to get through that because there's something that wants to evolve from this. That's how I look at the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful. I was thinking about the word triggered. So
Mm-hmm.
what the word means. So I know my childhood, it was used a lot. What comes to mind is triggered is almost a feeling or a belief of being
Mm-hmm.
momentarily disconnected from love, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're in an argument, feeling disconnected from ourselves or another, or a trigger is actually reminding us of a past event, right? So you can have compounded triggers like complex trauma. Um,
Exactly.
it's firing off in the nervous system, which is your brain is obviously connected to your whole body. So there's synapses that fire off from your brain. This is all NLP stuff, right? That go down into your body. So when that
Mm-hmm.
trigger happens of a negative belief, a disconnection from love, the whole body can often go into fight or flight, can go into freeze, can go into all these different types of reactions because
Mm-hmm.
it's trying to protect itself. So I think, number one, it's to never make ourselves wrong, like in the process that I teach Desiree, it's like non-judgment and unconditional love because hello, like we're doing the best we can in our bodies and our minds, and bringing our spirits forth. And so feeling into, like you said, okay, so I'm triggered, meaning I'm having an experience of something other than love. What do I need to come back to love? And that's why I think the easiest way is just moving into your heart and then into your gut. So you're having an embodied experience. Now, I know for me, like as I say that, my stomach's starting to hurt because I know for me, there's been times when the pain has been so excruciating that I literally would leave my body and I'd be like, I would just float above it or check out of here, right? And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where your soul's perspective comes in, as you can kind of see from a higher unconditional place where in that moment the pain feels too strong, but your higher self, your soul, can kind of float above it with you in unconditional love, observe it, and then start to
Mm-hmm.
give you the resources that you need to move through that experience. And so one of the other things about the intuitive success coaching process, I had no idea I was going to talk so much about this, but is, as you know, activating the internal resources, right? So as you're floating above a moment or an experience, you can actually train your nervous system to respond with love or calmness or happiness. So we could even do that now, right? So if you want to think about a time, everyone, where you felt super, super happy. So just think about that time. Who are you with? Where are you? And then you can bring your pinky and your thumb together and just anchor that feeling. So your body knows every time I bring my thumb and my pinky finger, I can feel happiness. So you start to bring that feeling of happiness into this moment, into the moment that you were triggered, right? And then, usually we go a little bit deeper, but you could bring like calm, right? Think about if calm was an image, what would it be? Let that calm come in. If it was the sound, what did it sound like? Let's go with smell. What's the smell? So as you start to feel that calmness move through your body, you can bring your thumb and your ring finger together. And again, applying almost like a salve, right, to the memory, to the trigger, that feeling of calm. And then go ahead, if you like, just bring the feeling of peace. So you can just think about peace, what that means to you. And let's anchor your thumb and your middle finger. Breathing in peace. And let's see if there's a color that represents peace. And you just bring that peace all the way through your whole body. And bring peace into that moment that you felt triggered. And it could be like the most recent memory, and it could even go back before that, right? Like if it's complex trauma, it could go back to the very first time. If you want to go ahead and let yourself bring it there. Good. And then once you have that, bring it forward in time from that moment all the way to present moment. And then you can start moving into the future with this peace, this happiness, this calm. So just noticing how you can shift your nervous system and move into alignment with love in each moment. Is there something else you wanted to add to that, Des?
Yeah, that's a trigger is always there for a reason. That to me, a trigger is when I've gone through a situation in which the situation in the age I had was so much that it's disconnected everything in me, that I had no connection to me anymore. It's as if in that point of time, it gets stored somewhere in my body as a cell in my body, and to be like in a how do you say that, a fridge, a cooler, in a freezer.
Freezer?
Yeah, on ice. Like, okay, she couldn't handle it in this point of time. Let's put it on ice and see as she matures that we will find a moment there that we get it out of the freezer, let it thaw. That's the trigger. It unthaws, all the emotions come back in the same heaviness as it got frozen in time in that moment when it happened. But now she's more equipped in dealing with those emotions because she's found more balance and more peace in her life. So she is now more adult in her emotions to handle that and to always take that trigger seriously, because no matter in what part of your life the trigger got stored as a memory, looking at through that eyes, that even, for instance, if it happened in childhood that you were afraid of monsters that were walking on your ceiling as shadows, for that child in that time, it was terrified. It was terrifying. It was exactly that what it was. And just to take that memory seriously, because that memory needs to transform into love, into light. And there's a hidden quality always underneath there about strength we regain from ourselves that we, with the memory being triggered, was put on ice as well. So that's the magic of life to me, that things happen in our lives, we get triggered, but as soon as we are finding enough bravery and self-compassion and faith in our own abilities, we unthaw those trigger moments and get a gift from there that helps us in the next step in our lives. That's either more trust or more light or more self-love, or more strength to walk in this world from on our own 2 feet, from ourselves, and from using ourselves as a base, connecting to the world around us.
Yeah, I think it's, what's the gift that came from the experience? So what is the expression of love?
Yeah. And it also helps us in our uniqueness. Everybody is unique, has got their own gifts. We're all working towards the same goal, which is oneness, which is to connect to everybody and all on a higher version of love and light. But we all come from that in our own uniqueness. So some might use music to touch people's hearts, some might use words, some just be present to touch somebody's hearts. Everybody's got their own uniqueness in doing so.
I love that. And I think that's why I love what I teach of like monetizing your gifts, like whether it's like a business or even if you don't want to, an expression of that, like a manifestation of love is a miracle, right? So like, what is your heart calling you to do or to be? And can you have the courage and the bravery to follow it,
Yeah, true.
I love that. Is there anything you want to share about helping people clear their blocks? Like if they feel maybe afraid to have what they want or afraid to follow their intuition, what really comes through for you around that?
That you can never do it alone. And that's the funny thing with being human. We always try to solve our problems by ourselves, but we are interconnected with each other. You will always find, if you are willing to look around you, you will always find a connection with a person in your near surroundings that can help you in working through the emotional blockage that you receive at the moment.
And I think just calling in the presence of love, right? So
And that is the presence of love. They come through the person that you meet, say by coincidence, which is not a coincidence, things like that. But you need to be willing to take off your blinders and keep how you call it, peripheral vision, like a 360-degree vision of what's happening in the world around you. You can't, how do you say that, zen your way through it by going hermit style and live on a cabin in the woods. No, you need to make connection with the world. The more you feel lost, the more you need to connect with the world around you, not to divert the attention away from your own quest, your own search to get to know yourself the best, but because we need each other to mirror back to ourselves how we want to look, how we want to be, how we want to set ourselves into this world. It's like if you just be by yourself, it's like being in a world where there are no mirrors. You can't perceive yourself if you can't seriously see yourself back in a mirror. If you can't look at the expression on your face, then you'll never know. Then you just have a one-dimensional vision of yourself. If you can see your own face back, mirrored back at you, then that gives another dimension on your own existence. So I see then, as in my metaphor, other people as the mirrors that are being mirrored back to you, so to say. Because if you look by yourself in an actual mirror, you're only going to perceive your face with the how do you say that, false beliefs or the hidden patterns that you have from your own perspective, from the own goggles that you look through. You perceive yourself and you perceive the world around you. It's because of the feedback and the inputs from other people that make you aware of the multi-dimensions you have yourself. As for an example, I've been connecting, having the desire to connect to people through love from as long as I can remember. For me, that is nothing more than normal. But having it mirrored back by other people, that it's for them it's exceptional. That mirrors me back. That is my uniqueness that I have been brought here to send into the world. And that kind of feedback helps me in seeing all of me. Because if something is so normal, then you don't see it anymore. It's literally hiding in plain sight.
I love that. I love that. And I was just going to ask you, what is the way that you feel in your everyday life? Just some examples of how you're living love, like with the kids you're working with and like how you start your day, and what's just an example of you living your life from your heart.
Yeah. Well, I've got two examples, one of how the preferred outcome and one of not the preferred outcome. So I'll start with the not the preferred outcome. So I had a day where I was very anxious. I was awaiting news of which I was very nervous that something would go wrong or something like that. So just minutes before I had to start my shift with the kids, I got the news that it was okay. So I didn't have time. I went in an emotional spike of being so relieved that I could cry, but the kids could walk in any minute. So I buried my feelings. This is how it normally happens in normal life. So I buried my feelings. And they got stuck in my body. They got stuck in my heart. And because they got stuck in my heart, those heavy, dense emotions of not having the relief of just crying out like with tears, cry out the emotion of anxiousness, they got trapped into my heart and into my body. And then I couldn't connect to the children that were coming. And they picked up on that instantly. I didn't connect the whole afternoon with them, and they were it just got from bad to worse, so to say, because they were so used of me connecting with them instantly that they didn't understand why we couldn't get a connection, and they got frustrated by it, and I got frustrated by their frustration. So you can imagine how it's just spiraled down. And then there's just comes a point in which you just can't get out. You just wish you could start the day over.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling. Yeah. But on the other hand, when I am honest about my emotions and the way I work with the children. So, for instance, there was a situation where one of the children told me another story about something that occurred that day with him than with my colleague. So I went over to my colleague just to check stories. Like, I don't know how to respond to him now because he's telling you this and me that. And then I felt him already look at me having that conversation with my colleague. Mm-hmm. So I went over to him, and the first thing, just before I could speak, he asked me, like, right, did you speak to my other teacher? And then I had the choice. I could either be the author how do you say that, the authorized, like the authority. Yeah, the authority teacher, like going like, nah, I didn't, and it's not for you to, it's something between me and your teacher, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. But I chose the other one, saying like, yes, I spoke to your teacher because I heard one story, but the other teacher heard another story, so I got confused, and from my confusion I don't know how to help you. And that's what I would like to do, because I see you're stuck with this emotion, but I do not know which version I have to react on, which emotion I have to comfort you with. And then you saw him think like, oh, right, oh yeah, that's not so handy. So then he gave me the true version of the story, and then I thanked him for his honesty. And then as a direct result of that, because I was being honest about the situation, asked an honesty of him to be, again, honest about the situation, which gave him a bit more self-esteem to be more honest about himself. And that honesty and that raise in self-esteem actually, how do you say that, helped him in addressing a group of youngsters that were twice his age, on which he had the question already, like, I would like to play with you in the football cage where they can play soccer.
Yeah.
But he never had the self-esteem or the faith in himself to ask that question to those youngsters. But now, because of the whole routine and explanation in how honesty works, and if you're honest to yourself, you get more self-esteem, he asked that to, well, there were about 5 of them, and he walked over them without hesitation, asked them if he could play soccer with them, and they not even hesitated, said yes. And they had a marvelous afternoon in playing soccer with each other. So that's 2 examples in, if you deny your emotions that are in the moment, you're being dishonest about it, and you don't give them space, how an afternoon can become disastrous. Or when you're honest about your emotions and you share them honestly, and then that honesty goes a long way, a really long way. And he really learned a good lesson in how to be honest to himself also.
Yeah, I love that. Share your feelings, let it be transparent, and then from that place you can find the solution, merging with your heart. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Well, I know we have about 10 minutes left before you got a jet. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience at all?
Just that I wish anybody that's listening to this show right now to have the clarity, the bravery, and the self-love to engage in anything that's asking their attention with an open mind, a heart full of love, and an awareness of the special person that they are.
I love that. I have this picture of a Buddha, and sometimes it speaks to me, and it just says, like, everyone's precious, right? Including you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Understand the preciousness.
Even the neighbor that's pissing you off, everybody's precious.
Totally. Luckily, I don't have any of those, but yes, I have in the past, and it's like sending love and being like, what is the lesson? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Gift. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Desiree. I just absolutely adore you. I invite everybody to go to www.lifeforceconnection.com. You can learn more about the certification program, the sessions, the nonprofit work we do. We teach this work in orphanages now, and we're working to build one in Ecuador, so we're super excited about that. And then Desiree, are you open for sessions right now, or how would you like people to contact you? Are you available at all for people?
Well, you can always drop me a line and we can see to work from there, so to say.
Okay.
So that's connectingfromtheheart@gmail.com.
Beautiful. And Desiree has created this amazing process as an offshoot from her intuitive success coaching about the heart process, which is amazing. She created an entire process about it. And I don't know if there's anything you briefly want to share about that. I know you're so busy, but if there's anything you want to share about that, feel free.
Well, it just brings people back to their heart and really view yourself with the compassion we all need to appreciate the person that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love that. Wow. Well, I appreciate you, my friend, and everybody listening to this show. We're so happy that you've been with us today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next show. Take care. Bye.
Bye.